Alara lived in the quiet town of Ardent Falls, a place nestled between shimmering mountains and a crystal-clear river. It was a town where everyone knew everyone, and secrets were rare. Life was simple, peaceful, and safe until that day changed everything. She remembered it clearly. The summer sky was bright, birds sang in the trees, and the market was bustling with laughter and voices. Children ran through the streets, their playful screams echoing like music, and among them was a boy, just a year younger than her, with dark hair that fell over his forehead and eyes full of curiosity. His name was Kale. Kale had always been adventurous, the kind of boy who dared to climb trees taller than the houses or cross the river on a rickety wooden bridge. But that day, his curiosity became dangerous. A landslide had begun in the hills surrounding the town, a sudden roaring wave of rocks and dirt tumbling down the slope. No one had expected it. People screamed and ran, trying to escape the destruction. Alara was helping her mother guide younger children to safety when she saw Kale. He had been too close to the edge of the mountain path, trying to rescue a small animal trapped under a fallen branch. The earth beneath him shook, cracked, and then gave way. He fell. Alara's heart leapt into her throat. Without thinking, she ran toward him. The crowd around her screamed for her to stop, to stay safe, but she could not. Kale's hand was slipping from the ledge. His dark eyes met hers for a brief moment, wide with fear. "Alara," he shouted. Her mind raced, calculating how to reach him. There was no time. She threw herself forward, grasping his wrist just as the earth beneath him crumbled. He fell against her, and together they slid down the slope, rocks scratching their arms and legs. When they finally tumbled onto a flat patch of ground, breathless and covered in dirt, Alara held him close. You saved me," Kyle whispered, shaking. Alara smiled, brushing a streak of dirt from his cheek. "I promised I would," she said, her voice steady even though her heart pounded like a drum. "We always help each other, always." It was then that they made a promise, one that neither fully understood the weight of. With the dust settling around them, Kale took her hand, looking into her eyes. "When I grow up, I will come back for you. I promise you this, Alara, we'll be together." Alara nodded, her chest swelling with hope. "I'll wait for you," she said softly. The town slowly recovered from the disaster, but for Alara, that day became the center of her world. Kale disappeared shortly after, leaving for the capital to pursue training in the city's academy, where only the brightest and bravest were chosen to serve in special missions. She wrote him letters, though most were never answered, and she hoped that one day he would return. Years passed. Alara grew into a young woman, her hair falling like waves around her shoulders, her eyes still filled with the same curiosity she had as a child. She had dreams of traveling beyond the mountains, of seeing the stars up close, but her heart was tied to the promise she had shared with Kale. Ardent Falls remained small and quiet, but the world beyond was changing. Rumors of strange occurrences in the skies, mysterious disappearances, and unknown ships appearing near distant colonies reached her ears. She tried not to dwell on them, focusing instead on her work at the town's small library. Books, she believed, could take her anywhere, even if only in imagination. Then came the day the message arrived. It was a small, metallic envelope, unlike any she had seen before. No stamp, no return address. She opened it carefully, and inside was a simple note written in a hand she had known all her life. "Alara, I am coming back. Wait for me." Kale, her heart raced. She held the note to her chest, breathing in deep, unsure if she could believe it. The years had changed many things. She had grown up expecting that Kale might never return, that perhaps life would take them in different directions. Yet here was the proof that he remembered. He remembered the promise. The next days were a blur. Alara could hardly focus on anything else. She walked the paths they had once run together as children, imagining him beside her. She searched the skies at night, hoping to see a familiar shape among the stars. And then one evening, a strange light appeared above the horizon, moving faster than any ship she had ever seen. It landed in a secluded field outside town, silent and glowing faintly. Alara ran toward it, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. When the hatch opened, a figure stepped out. Her breath caught. At first glance, it was Kale. His posture, his face, the way he moved, it was all the same, and yet there was something different. He looked taller, stronger, and his eyes held a glow she had never seen. There was a strange aura about him, subtle but undeniable, like he carried energy within him. He smiled at her, and though it was familiar, it was also not quite human. "Alara," he said, voice calm and firm. "It's really me." Tears welled in her eyes. "Kel, you're back," she whispered. She stepped closer, searching his face as if to convince herself he was real. "But what happened to you?" He hesitated, a shadow crossing his features. "I've changed," he admitted. "To survive out there, I had to become something more. Something different." Alara didn't understand fully, but she didn't care. All she knew was that the boy she had once saved had returned. Her heart leapt with hope and fear intertwined. Whatever he had become, she had promised to wait for him, and now he was here. As they walked back toward the town, the sun setting behind the mountains, Alara felt a mix of joy and uncertainty. The world was no longer as simple as it had been. Danger, mystery, and the unknown awaited them. But for now the promise remained. Kale had returned, and she would face whatever came next together with him. Little did she know the universe beyond Ardent Falls was far larger and far more dangerous than she could ever imagine. Kale's return would set off a chain of events that would challenge not only their bond, but the very future of humanity itself. And so, their story began again, under the fading light of the setting sun, with a promise older than time and a destiny that was only just unfolding. The stars stretched endlessly before them, glittering like scattered diamonds across a black velvet sky. Alara had never imagined the universe could be so vast, so alive with energy she could feel in her bones. The ship hummed gently, a low vibration beneath her feet that reminded her they were not alone in this new world. Kyle stood near the controls, eyes scanning displays that she could barely understand. Lines of information and glowing symbols moved across the screens, changing too quickly for any ordinary human to follow. But Kale was no ordinary human now. "Alara," he said, glancing back, "we are approaching the edge of the nebula sector. Beyond this, the mission becomes dangerous. The signals I detected earlier are stronger here. If we are to understand them and survive, we must be ready." Ilara's heart pounded. The beauty of the stars could not hide the fear gnawing at her chest. Yet she nodded, gripping the railing tightly. "I'm ready," she said, though she could hardly imagine what that meant. Kyle smiled, a mixture of pride and concern on his face. "Good, because what we're about to face will test everything you've learned." The ship passed into the dense colors of the nebula, a swirl of pink, purple, and blue gases that glimmered like liquid light. The sensors began to beep, indicating the presence of unknown entities nearby. Kale's posture stiffened, his senses alert in ways Alara could feel even from across the room. "They're here," he whispered, "and they've been waiting." Suddenly the ship jolted. A pulse of energy struck the hull, making them both stumble. Lights flickered as the systems adjusted. Outside the viewing window, strange shadows moved, shapes that seemed alive but intangible, shifting and blending with the nebula's glow. Alara's fear spiked. What are they?" she asked, her voice trembling. "They are not like us," Kale said, his voice calm but firm. "They can manipulate energy, travel through space without ships. They test everything that enters their territory, and now they are testing us." Alara gripped the railing tighter. "How do we survive?" Kale's eyes glowed faintly, and he moved with a speed that made her blink. He adjusted the controls, sending the ship into evasive maneuvers. The shadows outside followed, shifting and bending, probing the ship with invisible tendrils of energy. "They can sense fear," Kale explained. "They feed on doubt and hesitation. You must stay calm, trust your instincts, and trust me." Alara took a deep breath, closing her eyes for a moment. She thought of the day she had saved Kale as a boy, of the promise they had made, and of the bond that had carried them through years apart. That courage, that unbroken hope gave her strength. Opening her eyes, she nodded. "I trust you." Kale smiled faintly, and together they maneuvered through the nebula. The shadows intensified, sending pulses of energy against the hull. Alarms blared, and the ship rocked violently. Alara felt herself lifted slightly off the floor before Kale steadied her with a firm hand. "Hold on," he said. "This will be rough." As the shadows closed in, Kale activated a field around the ship, glowing barriers of energy that deflected the pulses. He moved with fluid precision, his body enhanced in ways Alara could not fully comprehend. His strength, speed, and heightened awareness were more than human. They were extraordinary. Yet even with his abilities, the danger was palpable. The shadows seemed almost intelligent, learning with each move. Ilara realized that survival would require more than just strength. It required courage, quick thinking, and trust in each other. "Kyle," she said, "what if they break through?" He glanced at her, eyes glowing brighter. "They will not as long as we work together. Humans have something they do not understand. Heart, courage, hope, things these beings cannot predict or control." Her chest swelled with determination. She nodded, feeling the same confidence that had guided her when she had saved him all those years ago. "Then we'll show them," she said firmly. Hours seemed to pass in a blur of movement, calculations, and energy pulses. The ship weaved through the nebula, Kale guiding it expertly, while Ilara assisted where she could, managing secondary controls, monitoring sensors, and learning the rhythm of the universe around them. Finally, the shadows paused, hovering around the ship in a slow, deliberate circle. Their presence was immense, almost suffocating, yet they did not strike. Kale's eyes narrowed. "They are assessing us," he said. "They want to know if we are worthy." Ilara swallowed. "Worthy of what?" "To survive," Kale said simply. "And perhaps to prove that humans are stronger than they think." The realization struck her. This was not just a test of skill or technology. This was a test of humanity itself, of courage, trust, and resilience. And Kale, changed as he was still human at his core. His heart, his loyalty, his hope, they were all human. Together they focused, each pulse of energy, each movement synchronized. Ilara felt herself changing as well, her fear replaced by determination, her hesitation replaced by clarity. She was learning to trust not just Kale but herself, and that trust radiated outward, pushing against the shadows' probing energy. Then suddenly, the ship was surrounded by a brilliant light. The shadows recoiled, twisting violently before dissipating entirely into the nebula. The sensors went silent, and the calm after the storm was almost deafening. Ilara leaned against Kyle, breathing heavily. We did it," she whispered, astonished. Kyle smiled, though the tension in his shoulders remained. "For now," he said. "They will return, or others like them. But you did well, Ilara. You held courage when it mattered most." She looked at him, pride and admiration shining in her eyes. "We did it together." Kale nodded. "Yes, together." As they continued through the nebula, Kale began to explain more about his transformation. He spoke of the enhancements, the alien technology integrated into his body, and the purpose behind it all. He admitted that while his abilities were extraordinary, they came with risks, physical strain, psychological pressure, and the ever-present danger of losing himself to the energy that now flowed through him. Ilara listened, fascinated and awed, but also grounded. She realized that no matter how powerful Kale had become, he was still vulnerable in ways that mattered most. His humanity, the heart she had always known, was what made him strong, and that was something no enhancement could replace. Night fell over the nebula as they approached a distant planet, its surface glowing faintly beneath swirling clouds. Kyle guided the ship down carefully, the hum of the engine steady yet tense. "This world," Kyle said, "will be our temporary base. There are records here, ancient knowledge that can help us understand the threats we face. And there may be allies." Ilara's excitement returned, mingled with the lingering fear. "Allies?" she asked. "Yes," Kale said, eyes scanning the horizon. "Beings who recognize the value of courage, of hope, and who believe that humanity can rise to meet the challenges of the universe." As the ship landed softly on the alien surface, Ilara stepped out, taking in the strange world around her. Plants shimmered faintly, their colors unlike anything on Earth. The air felt thick with energy, almost alive, and distant structures hinted at a civilization long gone, or perhaps still hidden. "This is incredible," she whispered, awestruck. Kale placed a hand on her shoulder, grounding her. "It is, but remember, Ilara, beauty does not mean safety. There is much we must learn and much we must prepare for. The trial is only beginning." She nodded, determination firm in her heart. The boy she had once saved, now a being far beyond human, was by her side, and together they would face whatever came next, through danger, mystery, and the unknown expanses of the universe. As the two of them stepped forward into the alien world, a sense of purpose filled them both. This was not just about survival, This was about hope, courage, and the unbreakable bond between two hearts that had promised each other long ago. And though the shadows of the universe lurked nearby, Elara knew that together they could face anything, even the stars themselves. Elara could hardly believe her eyes as she looked at Kyle. At first glance, he seemed the same, the boy she had known, the one she had saved all those years ago. But something was undeniably different. His movements were sharper, more precise, and his eyes, they glowed faintly with a color she could not name. Kale noticed her stare and offered a small awkward smile. "I know I look different," he said, "but I'm still me. I promise you that." Elara swallowed hard, struggling to understand. "What happened to you, Kale? Where did you go, all these years?" He looked down, hands flexing in a way that made the circuits beneath his skin shimmer faintly. "I was chosen," he admitted, "for a mission far from Earth to learn to survive. But it wasn't enough, to return safely. I had to change. I had to become something more than human." Elara's heart ached. She wanted to step back to ask him to explain, but her fear of losing him again kept her rooted. "Something more?" she asked softly. "Yes," Kale said, his voice carrying a strange resonance, almost mechanical but still warm. "They enhanced me to survive the void, to withstand conditions no ordinary human could. My body, it's different now. I can do things I never imagined, see things beyond human senses." Elara stepped closer, reaching for his hand. It was colder than she remembered, yet when their fingers touched, she felt a spark, a connection that had not been broken by time or distance. "Kyle," she whispered, "I don't care what you've become. You came back. That's all that matters." He looked at her, and for a moment, she saw the boy she had saved long ago, the one who had promised to return for her. But the moment passed quickly, replaced by the weight of the truth he carried. "There's more you need to know," Kale said. "The world has changed while I was gone. There are threats coming, things that can destroy everything we hold dear. I've been sent back not just for you, but to prepare humanity for what's coming." Elara's mind spun. She had read stories of alien encounters, of experiments in distant colonies, but she had never imagined facing something like this. Yet the determination in Kale's eyes reminded her of the promise they had shared. She nodded, steeling herself. "Then we face it together," she said firmly. Kale smiled, though a shadow passed across his face. "There's something else," he admitted. "I can't stay here for long. I must complete my mission. But I wanted to see you first, to make sure you were safe." Elara felt a pang of fear. "Go? But stay with me. You promised—" "I know," Kyle interrupted gently, "and I will keep that promise. But there are forces at play that you cannot yet see. You must trust me, as I trust you." The next days were a whirlwind. Kyle showed her subtle signs of his transformation. He could lift heavy objects with ease, move with incredible speed, and his senses were heightened beyond her imagination. At night, he would look at the stars, tracing invisible paths through constellations, whispering calculations she could not follow. Elara watched him, torn between awe and fear. She had saved him once as a child, and now he was saving her in ways she could not understand. Yet, despite his changes, she felt the same connection, the same warmth that had tied their hearts together years ago. Then the first warning came. It was a message not written in any language she recognized, glowing on a small device Kale carried. Symbols shifted and rearranged themselves, forming a pattern that only Kale could read. His eyes widened as he studied it. "They know I'm here," he said finally, "and they know you're close." Elara's stomach twisted. "Who? What are they?" Kyle shook his head. "Not what. Who? I can't explain everything yet. But I know one thing. They are dangerous, and they won't stop until they get what they want." Her mind raced. The quiet town of Ardent Falls, the peaceful streets she had walked for years, it all seemed fragile now. Danger lurked just beyond the mountains, invisible but real. "We need to leave," Kale said. "I can take us somewhere safe, at least for a while. You need to see this world beyond the mountains, Alara. There is so much more than what you've known. Despite her fear, Alara nodded. I'll go with you. I trust you. The night they left Ardent Falls was quiet, almost eerily so. The stars shimmered above, endless and cold, yet promising adventure and danger alike. Kale led her to a sleek craft hidden in a valley, a ship unlike anything she had ever seen. Its surface glowed faintly, and strange markings pulsed across the hull. This is your first step, Kyle said. Beyond Earth, beyond everything familiar, you will see the universe as it truly is, and I need you to understand why I've changed. As the ship lifted into the sky, leaving the valley behind, Alara felt a mixture of fear and excitement. The wind of the mountains gave way to the cold vastness of space. Stars stretched infinitely, distant planets rotating in their silent orbits. She gripped Kale's arm, trying to anchor herself in the reality of his presence. Are we safe? She asked, her voice small. Kale looked at her, his glowing eyes softening. For now, he said. But this is only the beginning. There are civilizations, beings, and threats out there that humans have never encountered. And we need to be ready. Alara swallowed, feeling the enormity of it all. She had saved him once, and now he was guiding her into a world she had only imagined in dreams. She could see how much he had changed, not just in body but in purpose. Kale was no longer just a boy. He was a protector, a warrior, and perhaps a bridge between humanity and something greater. Days turned into weeks aboard the ship. Kale trained her not just in survival but in understanding the subtle signals of the universe. He taught her to notice changes in energy, to read patterns in the stars, and to sense danger before it arrived. Though she was human, her courage, intelligence, and determination allowed her to keep pace. Through it all, their bond grew stronger. They shared stories of the past, laughed at memories of their childhood, and silently mourned the years they had been apart. Yet the weight of Kale's transformation always lingered between them, a reminder that he was no longer the boy she had saved, and she was no longer a child waiting for him. One evening, as the ship drifted near a glowing nebula, Kale finally spoke of what was coming. Alara, the threats I warned you about, they are not simple. There are beings who see humans as limited, fragile. They seek to control or destroy what we are, and I have been changed to prevent that. Alara shivered, though the fear was mixed with awe. Then, you're humanity's protector? He nodded slowly. In part. But I cannot do it alone. That's why I needed to see you. Because courage, heart, and hope, things humans often underestimate, are just as important as strength and skill. And you have all of them. Her heart swelled. She realized then that their promise had not been broken. It had only grown, evolving into something far greater than either of them could have imagined. They were no longer just a boy and a girl from a quiet town. They were two individuals bound by courage, trust, and an unbreakable connection, facing a universe full of challenges that demanded all of their strength. As the ship glided through the nebula, stars reflecting in Alara's eyes, she whispered softly, I'll face whatever comes, Kale. With you. Kyle reached out, holding her hand firmly, a symbol of their shared past and the uncharted future ahead. Then we face it together, he said. And so their journey truly began, through the vastness of space, into dangers unseen, and into a destiny neither had fully understood, but both were ready to meet. Alara's boots crunched softly against the alien soil, a faint hum vibrating beneath her feet. The air shimmered with colors she had never seen before, greens that glowed softly, blues that seemed to flow like liquid, and purples that pulsed like slow heartbeats. She felt as if the world itself was alive, watching their every step. Kyle walked beside her, calm and focused. Though his body had changed, his eyes still held the same warmth, the same determination that had drawn her to him all those years ago. Yet she could see the strain beneath his glowing exterior, the effort it took to maintain control over the energy within him, the constant vigilance against dangers she could not perceive. This place, Kale began, his voice quiet, is a repository of knowledge left by an ancient civilization. They were far more advanced than humans, far beyond anything we've ever encountered. And yet they left warnings about threats that could consume entire worlds. Ilara's eyes widened. Threats? What kind of threats? Kale glanced around cautiously, lowering his voice. Beings who can manipulate energy, matter, and even time to some extent. They see weaker civilizations as expendable. The shadows we faced in the nebula were just scouts, observers. They test every new presence to determine if it is a threat or an asset. Ilara swallowed hard. And us? He nodded, eyes locking with hers. They've marked us as significant. We have survived where others would have fallen. That means we have potential. Potential to resist, or to be controlled. The ship's sensors picked up faint signals beneath the surface of the planet. Kale led her toward a large circular structure partially covered by glowing vegetation. Its surface was etched with symbols that pulsed gently, like the heartbeat of the world itself. This is the archive, Kale explained. A place where they stored knowledge, history, and technology. And hopefully answers. As they entered, the air inside was cool, almost electric. Holographic images flickered to life, revealing scenes of a civilization long gone, cities floating in the sky, beings of light and energy interacting with machines, and planets shielded from natural disasters by unknown technologies. Ilara could hardly breathe. It's incredible. How did they do all this? Kale smiled faintly, but his expression quickly turned serious. They were careful to leave instructions, but they were also cautious. Only those who could understand courage, trust, and resilience could unlock the full knowledge. That's why we're here, Ilara. We have what it takes if we can prove it. He approached a pedestal in the center of the chamber, touching it lightly. Energy rippled outward and a series of symbols began to move, rearranging themselves. Kale's eyes glowed brighter and he muttered calculations under his breath. Ilara watched, fascinated and nervous. What is it? This is a test, Kale said. A trial left by the civilization. It is designed to measure judgment, courage, and unity. We must complete it to access the archive's knowledge fully, and failing is not an option. Ilara's stomach tightened. And what happens if we fail? Kale's expression darkened. It could be fatal. The energy here is powerful, almost alive. If we are not ready, it could overwhelm us. Despite the fear, Ilara nodded. Then let's do it. Together. Kyle smiled faintly, and together they stepped into a glowing circle at the center of the chamber. Instantly, the floor beneath them dissolved into light, and they were surrounded by floating platforms, shifting landscapes, and puzzles that seemed to change with every glance. The first challenge appeared as a series of moving energy barriers, each pulsing with a different rhythm. Kale explained that timing, observation, and trust were key. They had to navigate without touching the barriers or the energy would knock them back. Or worse. Ilara's heart pounded as she watched the patterns. She noticed subtle differences in the pulses, small inconsistencies, Kale pointed out. Watch carefully, he instructed. Energy is predictable if you pay attention. She nodded, focusing, moving with care. Kale followed her, guiding her silently. Together they danced through the barriers, timing each step, trusting each other completely. When they reached the other side, she felt a surge of pride, proof that courage and unity were more powerful than fear. The next trial was a puzzle of perception. They were faced with multiple floating images, each representing different choices for the future of a civilization. Kale explained that choosing wrongly could lead to disaster. They had to select the path that showed wisdom, empathy, and strategic thinking. Ilara studied the images, realizing the subtle consequences each choice carried. We can't just choose what seems right immediately, she said. We have to see the bigger picture. Kyle nodded. Exactly. Humans are limited in perception, but not in heart. That's our strength. Together they analyzed each image, discussing possibilities, risks, and outcomes. Ilara realized that the ancient creators had designed this test not to measure intelligence alone, but to understand human courage, foresight, and compassion. They were being judged not as individuals, but as humans. Finally, the last trial appeared. A vast chamber filled with shifting energy forms, each representing fears, doubts, and uncertainties. The energy coalesced into forms that mirrored their own faces, projecting past failures and unspoken fears. Ilara felt panic rising. I can't. Kyle took her hand firmly. Yes, you can. Trust me, trust yourself. And remember, courage is not the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it. Her heart steadied as she took a deep breath. She faced the energy forms, refusing to let them control her. Kale mirrored her stance. Their hands still joined, their resolve linked. Slowly, the energy recognized their unity, their courage, and began to dissolve, fading into harmless light. When the last form disappeared, the chamber fell silent. The archive glowed brightly and a door opened, revealing a library of alien knowledge, technologies, histories, and strategies that could help them protect humanity from the coming threats. Kale looked at her, eyes glowing softly. "We did it," he said. "Together." Alara smiled, exhausted but triumphant. "I never doubted us," she said. "Even when I was scared, I knew we could face it together." Kale's smile softened, and for the first time he allowed himself a moment of relief. "You are stronger than you know, Alara, and your courage. It's what makes us a team. Not just me, not just you. Together, we are more than either of us alone." As they explored the archive, Kale explained what they had learned. The alien civilization had faced threats similar to those now approaching humanity. Their records contained strategies for survival, defense, and alliances. It was knowledge that could change the course of history. Alara felt a sense of purpose she had never known before. She realized that the promise she had made with Kale years ago, waiting for him, trusting him, was no longer just about love or reunion. It was about hope, courage, and the chance to make a real difference in the universe. The moment of triumph, however, was brief. Sensors alerted them to an approaching vessel, large, dark, and radiating an ominous energy. Kale's expression turned serious. "They've found us," he said, "and they are not scouts. This is a full force." Alara's heart raced. She had faced fear before, but this was different. The shadows from the nebula, the unknown threats, they were tangible now, closing in fast. Kale placed a hand on her shoulder. "Stay calm. We have the knowledge and the strength to face them, but we must act quickly. Your courage, your heart, will make the difference." Alara nodded, gripping her own resolve tightly. She had survived landslides, fear, and years of separation. Now she would face the unknown with Kale, the boy she had once saved, the man who had returned, changed, and the hero humanity needed. The planet below them seemed to hum in anticipation, the glowing landscape reflecting their determination. Together they would face the next challenge, whatever it might be. And though the shadows of the universe were approaching, Alara knew one thing with absolute certainty. As long as they were together, there was no threat they could not face, and so, the trial of courage became the first step toward something far greater. Their fight for survival, for humanity, and for the promise that had begun long ago, beneath the mountains of a quiet Earth town. The alien vessel loomed above the planet, massive and dark against the vibrant glow of the surface. Its shadow stretched across the landscape like a blanket of night, and the hum of its energy vibrated through the ground beneath Alara's feet. This was no mere scout. This was the main force, the test, the threat, and the challenge that would determine the fate of humanity. Kale stood at the edge of the landing platform, his glowing eyes scanning the approaching ship. His body, enhanced and radiant, pulsed with energy that reflected both his human heart and alien strength. Yet beneath it all, a hint of tension lingered. He could feel the danger pressing closer, calculating every move. Alara took a deep breath, steadying herself. She had trained, learned, and proven her courage in the archive. She knew fear, but she had also discovered strength within herself that she never imagined. "Kyle," she said, her voice firm, "we face this together, no matter what." Kale turned to her, his expression softening for a moment. "I wouldn't want it any other way," he said. "You are my courage as much as I am yours." The vessel began to descend, sending tendrils of energy into the planet's atmosphere. The glowing barriers of the landscape flickered and warped as the alien force tested the ground beneath them. Kale moved first, activating protective shields around the landing platform and channeling his energy to stabilize the area. "They are testing our defenses," he explained, "and if they find weakness, they will strike with everything they have." Alara nodded, gripping the railing tightly. She felt the pulse of energy from Kale's body, the strange warmth and power that radiated from him. It was awe-inspiring, almost frightening, but it reminded her that they were not alone. Together they could withstand the impossible. The first strike came as a wave of pure energy. crashing toward the platform with a force that threatened to lift them into the sky. Kale extended his hands, projecting a field of energy that met the wave head-on. Sparks and light danced across the shields as the alien force met human courage amplified by his enhancements. "Ilara!" Kale shouted. "Now!" She understood immediately. The Archive's training had prepared her for moments like this. Using the controls Kale had taught her, she manipulated the energy flow, redirecting part of the wave toward the alien ship. The vessel shuddered as the redirected energy struck its hull, causing ripples across its surface. Kale's eyes glowed brighter, and he surged forward faster than she could see, striking the ground with a force that sent shockwaves toward the approaching enemy. His energy intertwined with hers, and together they formed a barrier that repelled the initial attack. But the vessel was persistent. More energy pulses came, faster, stronger, testing every ounce of their skill, courage, and trust. Ilara could feel her body trembling, but she refused to falter. She had faced fear before, and she knew that courage was not the absence of it. It was the choice to act despite it. Kale's enhancements allowed him to anticipate the enemy's moves, but even he could not predict everything. The alien vessel sent a strike directly at them, a concentrated beam of energy that threatened to tear the platform apart. Kale caught her hand, pulling her close, and together they dove toward a series of energy nodes embedded in the platform. "This is it," Kale said, his voice steady but urgent. "We can end this if we focus everything we have." Ilara nodded. She had learned to trust not just his strength, but their connection. Heart to heart, mind to mind, they were synchronized, moving as one. She directed the energy from the nodes while Kale channeled his own power through her. Together they created a beam of light so intense it pierced the alien energy surrounding the vessel. The beam struck the ship's hull, and for a moment the entire vessel shuddered. The shadows around it twisted violently before dissipating into nothingness. The alien energy pulse faltered, then collapsed entirely. The ship, dark and foreboding moments ago, began to descend slowly, powerless and defeated. Ilara fell to her knees, exhausted but exhilarated. Kale caught her, supporting her with his strong, glowing arms. "You did it," he whispered, though he knew it had been both of them. She smiled, breathing heavily. "We did it. Together." The alien vessel landed softly, and for the first time Ilara could see its structure clearly. Though dark and mysterious, it now seemed almost ordinary, stripped of the power that had made it so threatening. Kale approached cautiously, scanning for any remaining energy. "There is none," he said. "It is finished. But remember, this was only the beginning. There will be others. We have proven that humans can stand against forces far beyond our understanding, but we must continue to grow, to prepare." Ilara looked at him, admiration shining in her eyes. "Then we keep going. Together we'll face whatever comes." Kale nodded. "Yes, together." As they explored the vessel, they discovered the remnants of the alien force's technology, ships, weapons, and data logs that revealed the extent of their power. Kale explained that while these beings had tested them, their defeat proved something essential. Humanity's greatest strength was not technology or energy, it was courage, intelligence, and heart. Ilara realized then that their victory was more than survival. It was a message, a declaration that humanity was capable of rising to any challenge. And Kale, despite his alien enhancements, was proof that the human spirit could endure and evolve without losing itself. Hours passed as they explored, and Kale finally turned to her. "Ilara, I have a choice to make. I can remain in this form with these abilities to fight and protect humanity, or I can try to regain more of my human self, but it may limit what I can do against future threats." Ilara's heart tightened. She knew what he had become was extraordinary, but she also saw the man she had loved for years, the boy she had saved and waited for. "Kyle," she said softly, "whatever you choose, I will support you. You've always protected me, guided me, and shown me courage. Let your heart guide you now." He smiled, touched by her words. "Then I choose to stay, to use these abilities to protect and to fight alongside you. Humanity needs hope, and I will be part of that hope. But I also need you, Ilara. Your courage, your heart, they are what keep me grounded." Tears welled in her eyes. She stepped closer, placing a hand on his glowing chest. "And I will always be here. Whatever comes, wherever we go, together." Kale lowered his head, their foreheads touching gently. For a moment, the galaxy around them seemed to pause. Stars shimmered, Energy rippled, and the universe itself seemed to acknowledge their bond. It was more than love, it was unity, strength, and the unbreakable connection between two souls who had promised each other long ago. Suddenly, the vessel's remaining systems activated, projecting a holographic map of the surrounding space. It revealed other approaching forces, distant threats that could challenge humanity again. Kale studied it, eyes glowing with resolve. "They will come," he said, "but now we are ready, and humanity will not face them alone. We have knowledge, courage, and each other." Ilara nodded, determination filling her heart. "Then we will be ready. We've survived landslides, alien tests, and cosmic threats. We can face anything." Kyle extended his hand, glowing softly. Ilara took it, feeling the warmth and power radiating from him. Together they stepped onto the platform, ready to face the future, unknown, dangerous, and yet full of possibility. The stars stretched endlessly before them, glittering like scattered diamonds. They were small in the vast universe, but they were strong, united, and unstoppable. Humanity had its heroes, and Kale and Ilara were proof that courage, heart, and hope could shine brighter than any darkness. As the alien vessel slowly disintegrated into harmless light, Kale whispered, "We are more than human, and yet entirely human in what matters most." Ilara smiled, leaning against him. "Then let's show the universe what humans can do." And so, beneath the endless stars, their journey continued. The boy she had saved, now more than human, and the girl who had waited faithfully, their promise had endured, and together, they would face whatever the cosmos could throw at them. The universe was vast, unknown, and full of challenges, but for the first time it felt like theirs to explore, and nothing, not shadows, not fear, not darkness, could ever break the bond that had started in a quiet town on Earth and now shone brightly among the stars.